Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Sonoma Spiel. My name is Tim, and we're still in the middle of harvest. Last week, I talked about how the grape harvest was happening. Grape trucks are out there. I'm seeing more and more of them. This week, the Sonoma Valley Authors Festival is on the plaza, and we got coming up is the Vintage Festival, all sorts of amazing things. But aside from that, today we have a very special guest star. A very special guest star has graced us with her presence. She's come down from the mountains where she's up there preserving the watershed of Sonoma Valley and Sonoma Creek. She's part of the Sonoma Ecology Center. Everybody, it is Caitlin Cornwall. Caitlin, hello, how you doing?
Very well. It's great to be here.
Thanks for coming in and taking the twigs out of your hair and the poison oak out of your, I don't know what you do out of your hands and come in there. Caitlin, you're with the Sonoma Ecology Center. Can you tell me a little bit about what that group is and what they do?
Sure. Sonoma Ecology Center is, I like to say, we're your friendly neighborhood environmental organization.
Oh, good.
So we really have a home turf of the Sonoma Valley watershed, this beautiful bowl of paradise here. The Ecology Center has been around for a long time, over 30 years, and I've been there, I like to say 100 years. It's not quite 100 years, but a really long time.
Since you were 12.
And not quite. Made a child. Worn a lot of different hats there, and the Ecology Center, we're basically taking a lot of different kinds of actions to make sure that this beautiful place is healthy in 100 years. So everybody from kids in schools, we do education in all the schools. We take kids out. We teach them in the classroom. We teach grown-ups outside too. We do educational outings. We run a bunch of public open space land like Sugarloaf Ridge State Park, which is an amazing place. And we do environmental research, and occasionally we dip our toes into land use policy and stuff like that.
Because it's all related with the environment, how we use the land is all part of it.
Yeah.
Just so I understand, when you say Sonoma Valley, a lot of people, like when I say Sonoma Valley, I'm talking about a wine region.
Right.
And there is an overlay of what you're talking about. But I've seen you guys say you are part of the Sonoma Creek watershed.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
So a watershed is the concave shape that tends to pool all of its water. So around here we don't get snow, but we do get rain. So all of the rain that falls in this bowl all ends up going down eventually to Sonoma Creek. And so Sonoma Creek and all of its many tributaries are the circulation system of this piece of land. And eventually all the water goes down those tributaries and into Sonoma Creek, and eventually goes out to the San Francisco Bay. Sonoma Valley is the watershed at the top of San Francisco Bay.
And I'm drinking some water right now, which actually technically is from the Russian River.
Yes. most of the water that goes into the pipes of most of the houses in the Sonoma Valley watershed actually comes from a different watershed.
I guess if they're not on a well system
Exactly.
here.
So generally people on the floor of the valley, the flat parts of the valley, generally are getting their water from the Russian River, and people up in the hills and all the vineyards are getting their water from the ground, from wells.
From the Sonoma Creek watershed. And that water, there's this cool website where it shows, like, if you drop, you can put it on a map where a drop of rain falls, and you can track it all the way to the ocean. Yeah. And it's kind of neat because the watershed changes here up by Ledson Winery from Russian River to Sonoma Creek. There's kind of the watershed divide. The watershed divide, thank you. Okay.
Yes. And related to that, one of the cool toys we take into classrooms, and sometimes, events for grown-ups too, is this amazing physical model of a watershed that's maybe 5 feet by 5 feet, and it uses a projector to shine down a typographic picture of a watershed, and you can do that same thing. You can have it rain on a mountain.
Please rain.
And you can see the blue running down slope and through the streams. Cool. Yeah, water spends a great deal of time in the ground, and that's a good thing because even before climate change hit us around here, we have this very bipolar weather year where we have a dry season and a wet season. And so when you don't get water for half the year, you really want it to get into the ground so that you can have access to it later.
Right. By wells. Store. It's a bank.
Yes, it's a bank. It's the safest place.
Why should people care about water, though? Like the watershed. Why do people care?
Well, if people drink or eat food, food is mostly water. So there's some very short-term selfish reasons to care about water. But also the beauty of every place that we live. The trees, the animals, the birds. Without water, you have a place that looks like Mars.
Right. Right.
So we've always, I think, in California and in the West, there's that old saying, whiskey's for drinking and water's for fighting.
That's right. That's fighting over. That's right.
But incredibly, it was only in 2014 that California became the last state in the country to regulate its groundwater.
Oh, really?
To say by law that we need to not use up the bank account, which is amazing. So
water is important. It's almost one would say elemental, literally, in that sense.
Water is life. Water is life. That's it.
Okay, so you get the Ecology Center. You guys are in charge of the watershed as like your area, but it's not just water you deal with. It's like plants, animals, land use.
Land, yeah. I mean, it's the land. It's the land and how people relate to it. And actually, we're not in charge of anything. We're a nonprofit. We have no authority over anything, which really informs what we do. Almost all the land in Sonoma Valley, as in most of Sonoma County, is privately owned. And so what really matters is what people who own land and manage land and affect land, what they choose to do.
Okay.
There's rules out there. You can't take so much water out of the creek that your neighbor downstream has none. That's a rule. But what the land needs is way more than what the rules require.
Because sometimes the rules are written along property lines and ownership rights, but that's not really how the natural world maybe works.
No, and it's not going to get us where we want to go. If we want a future, we're all about thinking about what it would take for a place like this to have a future where people are thriving, the land is thriving, wild animals are thriving, where we can weather the ups and downs of extremes, weather, whatever, without losing too much of what's precious. Living on the edge of the continent over here, we've always had extremes. We've always had floods and droughts, et cetera, but we're looking at a lot more of that now and in the future. And also, our land use is, the way people use land changes over time too. So whatever we do, whether it's the old land use pattern of potatoes and pears and oranges,
I thought you were going to go further. How about Pinot?
Well, I was going to get there.
Oh, you were? I was trying to keep all the P's. Okay, good. Yeah. Potatoes, pears, and oranges. Good.
Or the current, which is, most of the land that's used is used for vineyards and it's used for rural homes. And we don't know what's going to come next.
Right.
But land use changes over time. So what we really want is for the basic functions of this watershed to work. We want the land to be able to take in water and absorb it, to grow trees, to hold onto its soil, hold onto its water. And also be beautiful, support a human population. I mean, here we are.
So what I like, though, there's two things you said there. One was that the use of the land for people and how to do that, and then kind of the wild corridors. What I like about the Ecology Center is you have two places where a visitor can experience both of those options. One being the Sonoma Garden Park over there off 7th Street.
Yep, 7th Street East.
7th Street East, where what I like about it is there's a permaculture exhibit. There's picnic tables. There's this beautiful fig tree, the fig forest thing. You can sit there. That's my secret picnic spot. I tell people that now. Now that I told you it's not a secret. There's a farmer's market there on Saturdays.
Yep.
And it's really about how you can either see how people grow food in a more sustainable fashion, B, adopt certain things for your own house, native plants or adapted plants to our dry weather. Or also see how, like, hey, if you want to buy food, here's a way that it can be grown in such a way that's more regenerative than other ways. So I love that.
Yeah.
How long have you guys been in charge of this place?
I think it's about 1996. Okay. It's a 6-acre piece of land that's sort of out on the very edge of the city of Sonoma. And it was owned by a school teacher who didn't have children, and she left it to the city to be a park, and the city didn't know what to do with it.
Like, great, now we've got a rectangle of land just outside the city limit, or in the city limits now. Yeah.
So it's a really unusual place. I highly recommend that visitors and locals go there. In addition to everything that you just said, which is sort of informative and inspirational, it's also just a beautiful regenerative place just for your state of mind. There's an incredible amount of bird life there. There's often kids there who are entertaining because it's one of the few places where you can just turn kids loose and they run. And
I love them. They discover a lizard. Like I'm sitting there eating my sandwich, like a lizard. There's a lizard, and people are going nuts.
Yeah.
This is fantastic.
Yeah,
right?
we also do these really wonderful summer camps there for kids that are. A couple of them that are really well loved are based on the Harry Potter books, and so people get to do like Care of Magical Creatures and stuff out there.
Oh, that is cool.
Yeah, people love those. So yeah, it's a very easy place to visit. Like you said, the market on Saturday is great, but any time of year, it's just a great place to roam around.
Okay, and I love the. They have a children's orchard or something like that, the kindergarten orchard. I think kids planted these plants a long time ago. These fruit trees are still there.
Yes.
Peaches.
And I just a little bit ago had amazing peach from there.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah.
That's a neat thing. Yeah. And then, but I also know that you guys, do you sell plants there or native plants? Because there's like a nursery in the back there.
Yeah, the nursery mostly grows native plants that we use for ecological restoration projects, which we do for private customers and also under grants. So that's one of the big things we do is restore damaged places.
Like kind of like along creek, like riparian corridors and things like that? Okay, interesting.
That's the most common setting that we do planting. And then we do also just have plant sales there for the general public once or twice a year. And those sales include both natives and food plants and flowers.
Okay.
That's another thing we do is grow flowers. There's also the first permitted straw bale structure in Sonoma County.
So explain what a straw bale structure is, because I'm not a hippie who lives in New York. But what does that mean and how does that work?
Well, a straw bale structure essentially has walls made from straw bales, bales of straw.
Don't we just call that adobe? Isn't it like essentially?
No, adobe is mostly mud.
Okay.
With some straw in it.
And that's what we can see by the mission and the barracks here in Sonoma.
Yes.
Okay, so this is mostly
straw. This is just bales of straw with rebar in them.
Oh, there's rebar.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. And the upside of straw is that it's practically free.
Right.
And it's incredible insulating qualities. So very little need to heat and cool a building like that. And the noise muffling is amazing. So it's a very simple construction technique. And that barn.
But you coat it with stucco?
You can, you.
How do you keep the water from rotting?
Yes, you have to coat the outside with something.
Okay.
There's just standard roof there, and if you look up in there, the trusses are really complicated because they were donated from some other barn. And it was a complete community effort to build that thing. And there's really cool salvaged wood on the outside that's got these cool lichens in it.
Can people now build a house in Sonoma County out of straw bale? Or the code allows it now?
It's a thing.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. It's a thing.
It's a thing. Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean the way that 90% of our buildings have been built is just it's just one of many options, and this is a whole other thing that part of the Ecology Center has gotten involved in recently is the housing crisis. But it would be smart for the planet and for money if we broadened our minds about how to build buildings, because wood is not the endlessly available resource that it used to be.
Building with a lot of. I mean, they used to use redwood until they don't have redwood as much anymore.
Exactly.
And different things there.
And Adobe, Adobe has a lot to recommend it, including the fact that it's everywhere. If you have a piece of dirt to put a house on, you have some dirt.
Well, there was something, the early European settlers here would use Adobe, right? And they're mud. It's good.
And you can do a hybrid too. You can do Adobe partway up and then straw above that.
Oh, okay.
Lots of options.
You big hippies. I knew it. So let me transfer away from that, from Sonoma Garden Park to Sugarloaf State Park.
Yeah.
Which you guys are also the nonprofit that kind of partners with state parks to run it.
Yes, we operate it.
Rather than permaculture gardening, that's a wild park with a waterfall. You have a waterfall. You guys have the waterfall. What?
There's actually many waterfalls in Sonoma Valley because this valley has a whole volcanic history.
It's pretty steep on the hills there, or what?
Yeah, there's a cap of volcanic rock, that used to be lava.
Right.
On the upper parts of the hills around here. And so on almost every creek that runs out of the hills, there is a place
where... There's a little shelf and it drops?
Yeah. But most of them are on private property.
Are you telling me that there's a possibility? I mean, not likely, There's a possibility of a volcano erupting in Sonoma Valley.
No.
Come on, do it. Give me the pitch. Come on.
You'd have to be around for many. I mean, the hot spot is not here anymore.
It's not here anymore.
No, it has to do with continental drift and all that. Yeah, it's north. It's actually the hot spot is up by Clear Lake. Mount Konocti is
that's a real volcano.
It's still on. Yeah,
that one's active.
It's active, although for human lifespans, that's
probably not likely in our likelihood.
Yeah,
because the area just north of town of Sonoma, it's called the Springs.
Yes,
was named because there were and still are geothermal springs.
Yes,
that were there, and those are because of volcanic activity.
Yes, and we would still have access to them if we had not pumped so much water out of our aquifer. I mean, that hot water is now no longer reachable by wells.
Got it.
But there were hot springs all over this valley, and they were a major part of the economy.
Right.
For a long time. Famously, Jack London first came
here for that. And the train, there's a pathway north of the plaza that was an old train right of way, which was part of an excursion train that would go up to the springs so that you could...
And to Glen Ellen.
And Glen Ellen to go take the waters.
That's right. That's right. Which is another wonderful, publicly accessible open space thing that... visitors should know about is just the bike path.
I love that bike path.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It goes through these beautiful grassy fields around the historic home of General Vallejo.
Do you guys do the vernal pool thing? Is that the Ecology Center? Sometimes I see there's someone's out, maybe state parks. Like there's someone out there that'll talk about what we call vernal pools or what people in the Midwest call puddles, but they're like, these cool lakes, small lakes that marshes that pop up in the rainy season.
Yeah, that is state parks. So they do some interpretive walks out there sometimes, and then they also need to do before they mow those fields every year. They have to do bird surveys to make sure that they're not mowing birds' nests. Can
I ask you a question? How do you survey a bird? Do you ask them to fill out a survey? Is it online? Okay, I know
They don't like that. They're so shy.
They do it anonymously because they're birds. They don't want to pay a lot of money because they're cheap.
Back to Sugarloaf.
Yeah, Sugarloaf. Tell me about Sugarloaf. What is up there that, as a visitor to Sonoma Valley or someone who lives here, what should I go see at Sugarloaf?
There's so much to see at Sugarloaf. It's huge. It's like 4,000 acres.
Yeah.
And it's highly varied, too. So there are shady, lush streamside paths to take. There are... steelhead trout in the streams up there, but you can't fish for them.
Okay, do not take home the steelhead kids. Right.
There are really dramatic mountaintop 360-degree views over from the top of Bald Mountain in Sugarloaf. On a clear day, you can see the Sierras, and then you can see out toward the ocean, too. You can't see the ocean from there. And that's to get up there is a 2 or 3 hour hike, depending on how...
You got to commit, because a lot of people think, they say they want to go for a walk, and I see Sugarloaf, and they look at their shoes, and they're wearing sandals. I'm like, well, there are some paths you can do.
Absolutely.
But like, if you want to get up there, that's a hike.
Yeah.
We got to be clear about that, right? It's beautiful.
There's just a huge range of things you can do. The most diverse and shortest loop, I think, that I often recommend is the Pony Gate Trail, which goes up into these grassy little hills, then goes into a really nice shady oak woodland, and then comes down to Sonoma Creek right at that waterfall. And then coming up from there, you're going through redwoods.
Right.
So that's a great little loop. And that just takes, I don't know, an hour, and you see like 7 different
all the different varieties there.
Right. Yeah. And then, of course, Sugarloaf has great camping, a really fine campground.
So what's weird, not only is it great campground, but I think if you don't have a tent, you can rent a tent.
Yes.
You can. So if you're coming from a city or you don't have the background of camping,
that's right.
They will set it up for you.
That's right. Yeah, since we took it over, it's become, let's just say, much more customer service oriented. There's a great little store, visitor center. People are super friendly. You can get trail maps. You can get suggestions. You can go in there and say, I want to take a walk, but I only have an hour and my foot hurts. What do I do?
I think you have one of the last one of 2 or 3 phone booths up there still. Because one in the plaza, I think there's one up there at the visitor center. I'm trying to remember.
There is. Yeah, you can get an ice cream after your hike. You can tell your kids that there will be an ice cream after the hike.
Oh, if they make it? Yeah, that's right.
Difference.
Stop hitting your brother, and there'll be ice cream.
That's right. And the summertime, on the weekends, there are little campfire programs. There's a really nice little amphitheater up there.
Right.
We have been recently developing a really nice relationship with a big family of Wapo heritage. That's, so one of the tribes that has washed back and forth across this valley over the centuries is the Wapo. And so just a couple weeks ago, a young woman from that family, Desi Harp, who's on our staff, was giving a presentation up there. And there's lots of great stuff that happens at Sugarloaf. And there's a really vibrant volunteer community too. So if that's your thing, if you want to, get your hands dirty while you're here, there's often something going on.
Well, people can kind of do trail restoration or something like that.
Yep.
There's also an observatory.
Yeah. I don't know the whole story of how this happened, but the largest volunteer-run observatory in the Western U.S. Yeah,
it's like a legit...
Yeah, like 3 major telescopes.
Right.
With
the whole
university level. Slides open.
Yeah, this is something you see at a college.
Yeah. It's very serious.
And I'm like, observatory is a telescope. And I'm like, oh no, this is a big dome.
And they have these wonderful star parties, usually on weekends at night, where amateurs will come and bring their telescopes. So their whole little parking lot has like 15 different telescopes set up, all looking at different things, with really enthusiastic people there who will help you see the crazy stuff that's in the sky. It's great. And this is such a small community too, that I just think it's fun that the daughter of the man who started that.
Is that Robert Ferguson? Is that
Robert Ferguson?
Okay.
His daughter, who is the head of the observatory.
Oh, okay.
She also was for several years the city's engineer. She just retired from that. Yeah.
Oh my God, it's Fergie.
Yeah, Fergie.
Oh my God. That's funny. I did not know that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. So she grew up with that observatory, and there was a crazy story. You tell me if we don't have time for this, but there was a crazy story during the 2017 fires when there was a very short time window when a few people were allowed by the fire people to make a run to Sugarloaf to try to get
the telescopes
out.
Did they get them?
They got them.
Wow.
They got them, and then the fire came through, but it didn't burn. It didn't burn anything except one historic, very cute wooden outhouse.
Oh, historic outhouse. Oh dear, I love that.
Which was still part of the campground. It was an operating.
Was it really historic? Yeah. Historic. It's I think Jack London himself went there. Here's a question for you. Speaking of the fires, which it's hard to not talk about it. It's part of coming on the 5-year anniversary of that coming up. You guys did a good job of showing how the California landscape, fire is a part of that landscape and how it comes back. And I know like in 2018-19, we had these great wildflowers appearing that we hadn't seen in a long time, these beautiful blue. There's my sign. They're blue and they're flowers. But like you saw a lot of them appearing and stuff like that. And what I really like is kind of you guys showed and talked about that's part of the natural cycle of a landscape in the Mediterranean style West, right?
Yeah.
And it's cool to watch the recovery.
I mean, the plants here know what to do with fire because there's been fire here. Although interestingly, the fire that they have adapted to is human fire. I mean, we around here, we get very, very little lightning. So for nobody knows how long, maybe 20,000 years, the fire that has been around here that all these plant communities adapted to was Indian fire.
When they would light the fire to clear out the understory.
Yep.
Interesting.
And they did it often enough that, and they didn't do it everywhere because why bother with,
too far away from where they live, right?
But they were doing it often enough that when it burned low and calm and cool. And most of the fire in Sugarloaf in 2017, for example, was like that. Just accidentally, one of the wildlife cameras up there got this amazing video over like 6 hours of the fire very slowly coming
just creeping along the floor.
And at one point, there's a deer
Yeah.
that's walking by. The flames are like 6 inches tall,
Right.
and the deer's just munching and looking around.
Just like, hey, Bob, look at this.
Yeah.
So it's grilled.
When you get fire like that, they call it cool fire. You don't get the death of all the big trees. You get what you get.
The trees have enough bark. Is that maybe it?
That's why oaks have bark like that. That's why they have it. That's why redwoods have it.
Oh.
So anywhere you see oaks around the world, that's a fire adapted landscape. That's why they've got it. What you want is for the fire to kill the little trees, because what you want, for many reasons, water retention, you want the big trees. You want fewer, bigger, healthier, well-spaced trees, because that sequesters more carbon, it captures more water, it creates more biodiversity, blah, 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 blah. So that's just all good. Big, old trees are good. But so that Indian fire was all shut down when the missionaries came in and then the American settlers came in. And so we've had these 100 years and more of suppressing all fires. So now we have had overgrowth in many places, not every place. And then when we do get fires, and especially with climate enhanced winds, but they can be catastrophic. They can be catastrophic for people, and they can be catastrophic for the land. Not everywhere. Because like I said, like most of those fires, most of the acreage burned in most of those fires was not catastrophic.
Right. It was just...
But Sugarloaf, we all know that a lot of these fires have been started by power lines, and the vast majority of fires around our region are started by people in some way or form. You know, our barbecues,
some fashion, or dragging a trailer chain. That's
so what's can happen, it's happening in Southern California all the time, and it happened at Sugarloaf, is that we're getting fire too frequently.
More than the environment is used to.
Respond.
So it doesn't grow back and regenerate.
Precisely.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
So in Sugarloaf, 75% of it burned in 2017, and then 75% of it burned again in 2020, and that's too frequent. I
did not major in math, but that's 150%. So so you're telling me something burned twice? Is that what? Okay.
Yes.
You tried to pull fast.
Yeah. So that's too frequent. So you can't expect oak trees to recover like that. But
can I build off that? Because you mentioned trail cameras.
Yeah.
You have a lot of trail cameras.
Yes.
You guys capture bears.
Yes.
Not capture on cameras.
Yes.
Are there places? Tell me what people can see where these cameras. Not they can't see the cameras, but where can they see what the cameras see? Yeah.
Yeah. Go to Sugarloaf Ridge State Park.org.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I misstated that. Sugarloafpark.org.
Got it.
Yeah, fantastic. There's and also the Facebook for Sugarloaf.
Okay,
that's that you get it there first.
Right.
Yeah, great. The website has a couple of videos that are a collage of the highlights. Mountain lions, bobcats. There was this crazy video of some of the staff up there found a dead deer. They think it was from two deer fighting. And found a dead deer, and they carted it off to a part of the park that nobody ever goes. And then they put a camera on it.
Oh, yeah.
And a bear came out of, in the dark. They always look spooky in the video.
Sometimes their eyes is infrared or something like that. Yeah.
It's reflective. So the bear comes like sort of toward the deer, looks suspicious, looks around.
Like, is this a trap? What's going on?
And then grabs it in its mouth and runs off.
Takes the whole deer.
Takes the whole thing.
Was it a big deer?
Yes. And bears, they're so strong.
How big are... Okay, so we have bears in Sonoma Valley.
We have black bears.
Black bears. And how big do they get? Like... I mean, I know you're not a ursologist or zoologist or something. Bear.
I was trying to think about what that was too.
Yeah.
Ursine biologist. They are, I would say, 3.5 feet at the shoulder. You know,
when they're on all fours.
Yeah,
that's a big animal.
Yeah, they're big. I mean, they're not remotely as big as grizzlies, which of course is the state animal that is no more in the state.
Right, which used to roam everywhere from the baylands up to the mountains.
Everywhere. Huge numbers.
And
there's a story of Yount. What was his name? Something, the guy that Yountville is named for.
Okay.
George or Jeff Yount. There's a diary entry of his where he and his buddies were coming from Yountville over to Sonoma for a day, whatever. And they shot like 12
grizzly bears
on that one day.
Jeez.
They were everywhere.
Those were fearsome, enormous. Like when I see the claws on those things, they're like pocket knife size.
Yes.
They're terrifying.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm glad. I mean, I'm sad they're gone. I'm glad I didn't run into 12 of them on my way to Yountville.
Right.
Because we probably wouldn't be here. But so you have these black bears. And are they similar to the ones in Yosemite that get into everyone's cars and stuff, or ours a little less food focused?
It's really important that the black bears not learn that people stuff is where the food is. It's really important for people, and it's really important for bears. So we're part of a partnership called the North Bay Bear Collaborative. The website is Being with Bears. But the whole idea is,
I'm being with my bear.
Yeah,
be the bear.
They're bears that learn that people are where the food is are really terrible for pets, goats.
Right. And eventually, sometimes they have to be euthanized, and that's just not good for anybody.
Yeah. So at Sugarloaf, and we've been helping other public parks do this too. We now have bear-proof trash.
You do. Good.
And the recycling and really that's all it takes. If you bear-proof your outdoor stuff and you don't leave food out, like pet food, and you and this is true for mountain lions too. People who have livestock really need to make their enclosures mountain lion proof and bear proof. Otherwise, you're going to create a customer,
right?
You really don't
a buffet.
Want to do that.
Dude, is it true that donkeys can help protect wildlife or pasture animals from mountain lions?
Sure, all kinds of animals can do that.
Really?
They just get
like a llama ever
imprinted. Yeah, they get imprinted, and I mean donkeys. Donkeys can cook.
I hear they're kind of mean.
They can run.
Yeah.
Yes, and they're loud too, so they can also alert the humans
if they're coming. Yeah. So there's also I don't know if you know the people. They have some sort of mountain lion thing up there in Glen Ellen.
Living with lions.
Living with lions. Okay.
Kind of like being with bears.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, so
Partying
that's
with porcupines.
Quinton and Liz Martins, who are super cool. They're South African biologists. And they radio collar mountain lions around here. And you can go on their website and see
and
where
track
they are
them.
going.
They move around because there is a winery here called Wine Snob. They're funny people. They're really nice, but one of their wine labels is named after one of the lions.
P something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Why is it a P for Puma or something?
I don't know what the P is.
But yeah, you can see these guys move around.
They are everywhere. They go everywhere.
There could be one in the studio right now. We don't even know it because they're so good at hiding. But
they are really good at hiding. They are super shy. This is something that people should really know about mountain lions. It's like the two facts. You got to get them both in your head. They are everywhere, and they do not want to have anything to do with you.
Right.
Any people contact with mountain lions is really rare and quite special, actually. And the frequency of a mountain lion actually attacking is just vanishingly rare.
It's much more likely to get hit by a car
or lightning. Yes.
Oh yeah. That's pretty rare then.
Yeah. So I've only seen one once, and I would love to see them.
And you've been in this game for 20-something years.
I would love to see more. But they're big and beautiful and very shy, and they eat deer. That's what they want.
Well, okay, but so first time we were up at Annandale with my kids when they were small, and we crested a hill, and there was a cat. And of course, my wife freaked out, and I said, "That's not a mountain lion. That's a bobcat."
Almost certainly.
Because I know it was a bobcat, but you see a lot of bobcat scat around when you're hiking. But how come we're more likely to see bobcats? Is it because there's more of them?
Oh yeah, there's many more of them, and they're just not as shy. They're
and they eat garbage.
They're generalists. I wasn't going to say they eat garbage, but
they do. They like go in the garbage can. Like, oh my god.
Yeah, I mean some animals are really specialized, and mountain lions are generally specialized on deer, and so why they're going where they're going and what they're looking for. And bobcats have a much wider search image, like coyotes. They're just going to snoop into everything.
Coyotes are in San Francisco. They caught them going across the Golden Gate Bridge. They didn't even pay the toll. But I think if there's 3 of them, it's free. I don't know how it works. It's carpool.
It's very impressive. I mean, Americans have been trying to obliterate coyotes.
Yeah,
from day one, and it's just really quite amazing that they're still here.
They're still around,
and they're so insouciant.
Oh, good word.
They just trot around and look at you like you got a problem with us.
I have. You can see them sometimes in the vineyards up on the hill, and I don't know if they eat grapes or not. But they go through, and I think they're also probably chasing rabbits and gophers and whatever. What cool animal that you wouldn't expect for us to see? Like, what's your favorite, like on a trail camera, you see like, it's just some weird bird or something that you get really excited about, or like you don't, you love all the animals the same.
I do have kind of a special thing for badgers.
Badgers? We have badgers?
We have badgers.
Like really?
They're really...
Aren't they mean?
If they're attacked. They're kind of legendary for being ferocious for their size.
But then the question is, if you're attacking a badger, that means you're digging a hole in the ground and fighting it. Why would you do that?
Yeah.
Really?
So they like very quiet grasslands. So they're the southwest part of Sonoma Valley, where you're starting to go over to Petaluma, and there's those more grassy.
Yeah.
I've never seen one in Sonoma Valley. I've only ever seen one in Washington State. But I don't know why I like them. They're kind of mysterious. They keep to themselves. I like the fact that they just seem to have like 5 times the intention and potential ferocity that they should have for their size.
Got it. Okay.
It's like a real interesting package there. You know, they're related to raccoons. Raccoons are much more relatable.
Right.
Because they're generalists like people, and they're just like curious about everything.
Everyone loves raccoons until there's one that gets through your dog door.
Oh yeah, they're not. You do not want to cross a raccoon.
I've had that. We had to convince one to leave our house with a broom because it was halfway in a dog door. And we're like, get out. Like, once it got in the house, I knew all hell was going to break loose.
Yeah. So I also am just always excessively tickled to have native birds show up in my yard. I mean, just on my way here, I was walking out the door and there was an Anna's hummingbird, a titmouse, which is a little gray bird with the... Are
they the ones, the little the 90s boy band hair?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, yeah.
And quail. And
the California quail's famous for this area.
It's great.
Very
I wish that more people, this is another thing we do, really promote landscaping with native plants. Yeah. And when you landscape with native plants, you get native birds, and it's a beautiful thing.
We tore out our lawn. For people who do live in California, there's an opportunity. Check with your city to tear out your lawn and put in native plants. I know you have it in your house. But it's amazing how much more diverse just your yard gets.
Yeah.
And it's because a lawn is a monoculture and dumb, and it doesn't really have seeds. It's just and then when you have the penstemons and the salvias and these, different, even native plants. It's insane. Oh, those native. Okay. Yeah. It's great. Oh, you're a botanist. Yeah. So real quick, you went to school and studied biology, botany, badgerology. What did you study?
I got a biology degree at Berkeley. Okay. Kind of a general biology, not the micro, not the macro.
Just middle of the road biology. Yeah. Right.
And then later I went to grad school in Arizona because I had given up on California. It was just too crowded.
Yeah, forget it. I'm out of this place.
Even though I'm locally grown. So I decided I was going to be a Southwest person, and I did kind of fall in love with the Southwest. But I went to a botany department because there were these 2 professors there who focused on streams in dry places, which have always just been really drawn to. They're the place in the landscape, and you really feel that at this time of year too. Like it's green there.
Isn't that weird?
There's water there. There's life there.
Or there's a seep where you see like there's a creek, but it's not above. It's like under.
It's below ground.
And there's trees. What are they called?
Willows.
Willows. Yeah, willows. Kind of like you follow through through a little crack in the surface.
Yeah,
that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, there's just these little ribbons of life that persist through these really difficult months. Speaking of which, I also just want to say beaver.
We have beavers here.
Yes, we have beavers
in the Sonoma Creek.
Yes, in several places. And I actually saw one. Around here, they're not easy to actually see. They're quite shy. So mostly what you see is you can see the dams that they build, and you can see trees that they have felled.
Oh, in preparation of making a dam, or they just don't like that tree?
They eat the leaves and twigs.
They do.
And they also use the branches for their dams.
Got it. Okay.
But at Maxwell Park, there's
yes.
If you go down to the swimming hole and then you go a little bit upstream.
So literally down the street from a McDonald's, you can go find a beaver dam.
That's right.
That's amazing.
Right. Wildlife and native plants, they want to grow. They want to live. If there's room, if they can, they will. Okay. Wait, on that, what's one plant you hate? Come on, the plant you hate. Come on, there's got to be one. Yellow Star Thistle. Yellow Star. Look at your face. Yellow Star Thistle. Is that an invasive? Or is that just one you hate? maybe 10 years ago, I read the statistic that it had invaded 10% of California. And it grows in grasslands, like you see at the top of so many of our hills around here. And it's incredibly good at extracting water from dry ground.
Is it the one that literally has spikes on the side and it's yellow? Okay.
Yellow star, yeah.
And what about that French broom stuff? Everyone's mad about that stuff.
That's pretty terrible too.
Okay.
So the problem with these plants, of course, a plant cannot be evil, it's
right.
just doing its thing.
They're where they are.
And they thrive here because they come from someplace that has very similar weather to here. And the thing is that they got here without also bringing with them the microbes and critters that ate them and the disease organisms that kept them in a balance wherever they came from. And they push others out. They can create a monocrop basically. And a monocrop is just no good for biodiversity.
Interesting.
So French broom will also become so dense and overcrowded that it will become a serious fire hazard.
Oh, because it's flammable.
If it's
dry.
If it's not healthy, which, in September at the end of 3 years of drought, not very much is happy out there. So it'll definitely burn. And it's so dense that when one stem burns, the next 17 catch.
What would you prefer to see? French broom or poison oak?
Oh, definitely poison oak.
Because that's native?
It's not just native. It's not exclusive the way French broom is, and it produces food. Those berries, like we can't use them, but birds love those berries on poison oak.
I guess we're the only mammal that is affected by poison oak.
And only some of us.
Yeah, who are those people that aren't affected by poison oak?
I would really like to know. For a long time, I thought that it seemed that it was only white people.
Oh yeah,
But there's a lot of people who don't get poison oak. So I don't even know if that's true. I'm very curious about that.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's just sort of an accident of evolution.
Actually, I wonder if that, like, if your background is Europe, where maybe they don't have poison oak,
right,
and you would react to it versus people who, they've been here for millennia.
Right.
That's a great question.
And the other thing interesting about poison oak is that you can create an immunity to it by microdosing. You just have to be very patient.
For all microdosing, just be patient. I love that. That's crazy.
And for people who aren't super familiar with it and who might be kept out of the woods by the fear of it, you should know that that it doesn't get into your skin for about an hour. So if you brush against it, you can rinse it off with water,
right,
which you will have with you in your water bottle, as you should. And
or so that Technu stuff.
You don't ever have to get it.
Okay.
Technu is like based on gasoline.
It is? I was wondering why it was so slimy.
Yeah.
Is it really a petroleum?
Yeah, it's completely a petroleum product. Yeah. So
is this big oil dumping up on the
it works. It's effective. But the thing is that you don't need it. If you at your lunch break, rinse off your hands and your shins.
I want to be clear. Most people don't get poison oak over their lunch break because most people don't work for the Ecology Center. But I love that was in your mind. Like, of course, you got poison oak on your lunch break.
I was thinking about hikers.
Oh, right. I gotcha.
Yeah.
I gotcha.
I mean, most of our open space around here, the trails are really well maintained, and you're unlikely.
You're going to give me this because I know I kind of want to wrap it up here. But 3 great hikes.
Yeah.
In and around Sonoma Valley. 3 great hikes. Any level, but can you give me 3 that you think would be a good one for someone visiting or living here?
Yes. I thought you were going to ask me this question. So,
are you serious?
Yeah.
Good job.
I would definitely recommend the Montini Overlook Trail Loop. It is a total of maybe it's 4 miles, the whole loop, but you can do, of course, much shorter than that. So these are trails on the hillside immediately to the north of Sonoma Plaza. So when you go up in those hills, you get these great views down the valley. They're not very far out. You won't feel like you're off in Nowheresville, but the land is really typical of around here.
Typical Northern California woodlands. Oak
yeah, it's rocky. So, wear real shoes.
When the people come with their sandals, I'm like, you could do Overlook.
Yeah, don't go. You want to have decent footwear for those trails. I always think of the word bony. Those hills are bony.
Yeah, good point.
They face south. They're kind of hot. So
and you guys have at the top a neat little trail booklet at the Overlook Trail. that people can put their wishes and things
That's
into,
right.
which I love to see that.
That's
in
right.
Little Notebook.
And there's just really great stories actually behind both
Right.
of those trails. So that's good. It is hot in the middle of the day.
Right.
So at this time of year, I would go at the beginning or the end of the day. I run up there almost every day.
Right.
And then highly recommend that loop I mentioned at Sugarloaf, the Pony Gate.
Which is more of a hike, more substantial.
It's not that much longer. Well, maybe, yeah. Maybe it's 5 miles.
Okay.
The whole loop.
Okay.
It's not one of the longer hikes there.
Okay.
And then I would also recommend, maybe I'll throw in two.
Okay.
The bike path,
Right.
flat, paved,
Super accessible.
in the city, but great views. You get to walk right by Vallejo's home, which is great.
Vineyard is right there. There's a patch. There's a farm. You can see it all.
Yeah, it's great. It's a great place.
You can
to
stop at Sebastiani and get some liquid refreshment if you need some wine.
That's right. You're like half a block from Sweet Scoops. If you need ice cream,
You
can
always
go walk
need ice
right
cream.
by Villa Cheese, which is a
Right.
fantastic experience.
Right.
And then we also, so we have 3 state parks in Sonoma Valley. We are amazingly well served. Jack London is fantastic. A lot of people know a lot about it. You can also get to the back side of Annandale State Park from Lawndale Road. So very few people go in that way.
Yeah.
And you can get up, there's actually a really shady trail there on Frey Canyon that very few people go on.
I do want a bike path to Santa Rosa, and that's one of the ways to do it. But we haven't, that would require engineering.
Yeah,
But
supposedly the Sooner bike path is going to be along Highway 12, which is not as...
yeah, so that's been in the works for 30 years.
I know.
Everyone's like, the bike path's going to happen. I'm like, yeah, I know. I can't wait for my great-great-grandkids to be on it.
We are really blessed with open space here. It's something really special about this part of the county versus the West County.
Right.
We just have a lot of it. So I just think it's great. I think it's, I'm actually not a big wine drinker. So for me, what Sonoma Valley is these beautiful outdoor places.
Yeah, well, that's a great point, Kayla, 'cause we get a lot of people say, I'm not a wine drinker. I'm like, that's fine.
Yeah.
You don't, there's
so
literally
much more.
other things to do here.
Yeah, and you can't drink all day long. I mean, I guess some people can.
They can try. I've seen them, but you shouldn't. Was I going to get you to talk trash about Jack London State Park, or are you not? You're not okay.
I don't have a lot of trash to talk about Jack London.
That's a cool spot. It's a neat park.
It is a neat park, and it's got. It's got these two completely different sides. The historic part and Jack London, that sort of cult of personality around him and his life, which was very dramatic. But it's a big park, and if you're up for it and you get up to the top, you're on that ridge between Sonoma Valley and Petaluma Valley. The views are astounding.
It's phenomenal up there.
Yeah, and it's just not a view that you can get from anywhere else, and you feel very pleased with yourself.
So, do you think we'll ever get a trail that goes all the way from like Napa through Sonoma to the coast that's easy to hike? Because I had a journalist ask me, he wanted to hike from Napa into Santa Rosa. And we kind of put it together, but there's some places where there's private property. So it was kind of tricky. But would there ever be, or part of I know there's the Bay Trail or something
there's
like that.
the Bay Area Ridge Trail.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there is now I would say in 2023, there's going to be a connection between Sugarloaf Ridge State Park and suddenly I can't remember the name. The next one that's closer to Santa Rosa.
Hood Mountain, Annandale.
Hood Mountain. It's Hood Mountain. So the question is, you'd still have to get like across Santa Rosa.
Right.
Then which you can do. You can walk through Santa Rosa.
Well, and there's that trail, the Redota Trail goes through part of it.
Yes.
So a lot of this is the rail. Once you get in the city areas, it has to be the rail to trail conversions.
Right.
Probably. But.
There is a group called the Camino de Sonoma, I think, and they do a walk from the Mission here to the coast.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, they go to Fort Ross. I think they
maybe so.
Yeah, that's right. Because I think they're the Spanish, then actually the Mexicans who founded the Mission to go see the Russians at Fort Ross.
Yeah.
I guess it reconnects some historic.
Yeah, that's the idea. That's the idea.
Oh, that's cool.
Because a lot of the Indian communities had seasonal migrations just to take advantage of the best weather in all places. So they were traveling pretty long distances. So many of our roads are on those routes.
Old Native American paths that went through. That's crazy.
Yep. So,
all right.
Yeah.
Caitlin, if people want more information about the Ecology Center, And I know from there they can find the other stuff. What's your website? How do they find information about you guys?
SonomaEcologyCenter.org. Pretty simple.
That's
Yeah. We are kind of a big umbrella. We do a lot of different things because that's what it takes.
I didn't bring it up because it's rude to bring up the refrigerator full of dead fish heads or something like that. But I think you guys even do like biology and like fish research and different things related to the watershed. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yeah. The dead fish in the freezer, that's one of our educational units for kids is about the watershed. And one of the great ways to tell people about watersheds and how they connect to the ocean is to talk about steelhead and salmon, because steelhead and salmon go both places in their lifetime.
They come up.
What's
that? There's a word for a fish that lives in both seawater.
Anadromous.
That's it. Good job. You know that word. All right. So you know all the words. So we have fish that are salmon, not so common anymore, but bringing them back, who can go from the Sonoma Creek to the ocean, live out in the ocean. No. Then they're
born in the creeks. They're born in the creeks.
They go to the ocean.
They go to the ocean. They get big. And then they come back. To spawn.
So it's not like the monarch. It's not like their offspring come back. It's like
they themselves personally.
Come back. How long does a fish live?
I don't know
without getting eaten by a killer whale or something.
But they're often a few years old before they come back.
Okay.
They have to be a certain size because they have to be able to swim upstream.
Pretty far.
Pretty far. And it's astounding that they can redo their entire physiology for saltwater and freshwater. And they're breathing it. So it's amazing.
And then I know at the end they get kind of gross when they're after they spawn.
Salmon die after they spawn. They get one shot.
That's it.
But steelhead trout can go back and forth multiple times.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So they're the travelers.
Yes, they are. And they're very tough. So we don't get salmon every year here. We get salmon in good years, in good wet years, and they're huge. It's kind of
I've seen videos.
Mind-blowing.
A little stream.
Tiny stream.
And there's like this 2.5 foot, 3 foot monster fish
sticking up out of the water. It's amazing. It's crazy. And they're nice because you can actually see them. The steelhead are much more stealthy. They come at night. They come when the water's muddy. You don't see them.
Yeah, some people say if you wear polarized glasses, I don't know, in the water, it's hard to see through the water too, but sometimes you can kind of see through it with different types of glasses, but they're hard to see.
So our steelhead will spend the summer here. And they can only do that in the deepest, coolest pools.
Got it.
And that's where the polarized lenses are helpful. But again, I repeat, it is illegal to even look sideways at these fish. Don't even touch them.
But go to the website. Lots of information.
You can look at them, but don't
even
try to get
touch
close to them. They're really on a knife's edge because water's hard right now, and it's going to get harder.
Yeah.
So just last winter, there were amazing, huge salmon spawning all the way up as far as Sugarloaf, which
that's great.
It's
far.
just amazing that they get that far.
If people drive it, they'll be like, "Wow, we're pretty far from the ocean." You're like, "Yeah," and a fish just swam that.
Yeah.
Upstream.
Yeah, and they come up from the bay, and
so they go right by Sonoma here.
Yes,
Sonoma Creek's right here.
Well, Sonoma Creek is in Maxwell Park.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Yeah, they go right up. They go through the beaver dams. So again, like beaver and fish are very compatible.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. That's what's great about the natural world. There's all these lives happening out there that are available for our amazement if we look and we know where to look.
If we pay attention.
Yeah.
All right. Caitlin, thanks for joining us, and I really appreciate that.
It was great.
If everyone wants the information, again, that website one more time is
SonomaEcologyCenter.org.
Great. And if anybody else wants more information about wonderful groups like the Sonoma Ecology Center, you can find it at SonomaValley.com. Again, SonomaValley.com. And if you've listened this long, you are committed to this podcast. So please comment, subscribe, tell your friends to listen to the Sonoma Spiel, and we'll see you next week. Thank you very much.